It's Monday. It's May 1st, 2023. I'm really careful how I say this. I'm watching this show that I stumbled upon called Succession. Now, when I break it down, there's the Sue, the SU, then there's the word success at the ION at the end of it. So I'm really taking mathematics and calibrating the weight in a measurement system of, I don't know, somewhere between the Avengers and sorcery when they have a conversation and just being able to go spell in the middle. Um, I'm watching the first season, second episode, and I'm just taking a scene. I'm taking a piece of the conjecture out for a moment. I'm listening really carefully to how the artists, the visual artists, and the Writers Guild set this conversation up, and how in my day to day, because they were given permission to do so, and I'm in an area that is covered by this market share. So, how is it this conversation? How can I relate it to my everyday, since I am a flower that has fruit and a stake in the future? Um, I'm listening to this conversation. Also, in there's notes. There's a note, and on it it says United States of America, and it says in God we trust. It doesn't say in the American Lung Association, truncated to an alphabet soup, but it does say in God we trust. It still says that on Hamilton's note to remind me in my pocket of certain features, and not to erode the trust between the God and the persons that are in the field. Same time, on this one general that I can hold in my hand, being George Washington, his head is still important, but the tail has changed. So that concerns me with the storytelling. So I'm listening for pieces of the storytelling and how it fits into what I've seen in order to feed back into the system. And however that works. I'm listening to this conversation very carefully in the context of I can go to a building locally by foot or by short range transportation that still speaks of the God. I know it's still alive, it's still in motion, and it's still an important feature or building block to many different areas here. So that's incredibly crucial. Um, so I'm going to just eavesdrop in on this season 1, episode 2 of Succession because I wanted to see what success at ION looks like. Because somewhere there's an IO. I think they call that the International Order. Because there's also, does that mean that there's also a DO, which is like the domestic order, in Io Mi Io. So I'm just listening to this one piece. Now, I'm not taking into account all the cast and characters. I'm not taking into account how badly, it might be standing over a man's bed and having this conversation. I am taking just this scene, and just this one set of script has so much importance with why is there still a George Washington's head, but why has the tail changed on the back at the same time that this is going on?
In the case of the
And they say that this is fictional. They they come out, they very clearly write it's fiction based on some global media, but it's fiction. It's supposedly make believe.
worst case, would it have been nice to have asked his body?
Yeah. So worst case, it would have been really nice to have asked his body. But somehow the man is at the success of ION is out flat. He had some form of a brain hemorrhage. And now he's in this pseudo state of whichever. Um, so, with that being said, it would have been really nice, like with George Washington as well, in this type of momentum, to have asked, why did the tail change? Why is it not still one cohesive system of bird? Like when I first arrived and I was taken to the undisclosed location of the Mint, we were living pieces of history. We were living witnesses to the actual current history in this area representing our school or our grade, whatever we were being called in, didn't grow up with the same kind of educational system. Now, I go from that scene that somebody put out there with this hypothetical head of this media mogul flat on his back in between worlds or in between whichever. He's not really, it's in a pseudoscience state. And it would have been really nice to have asked his body, but again, he's in this things I don't have word for, pseudoscience state that I don't have. I mean, he's state of the art equipment because he's human, but I don't have. Um, so then I go to a more recent acknowledgement by the humans where it says that there is something called Norton Lifelock, and they say that there's something called a dark web, and they show a picture of it. Now, I mean, I've named for my own reality construct what my internet looks like. I know not everybody has the same internet as me. That much I've already stumbled upon by accident. But whatever internet I have access to, it's again whatever they painted into my reality. So I'm watching very really them acknowledge that there's some other version of the internet that some of the new kids that use technology got the technology package, I guess, or the marketing package at different levels of experimentation that people chose. Um, they have some different feature that I don't even have access to. And I'm watching as they disclose it, that it's available to some. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a whole nother level of scary that I mean, I'm quasi book every now and again. Haven't read books in like years, but I'm trying to now at least put the effort in. I didn't really watch movies. I was more of like a face to face whatever. Um so I'm going to pause this for a minute and bring that up. So I've heard them speak of this something called a cryptocurrency, things that I don't even know about. I mean, again, this is the system that was here and that was functioning and had a national security purpose of tangible asset, hard days work, hard days pay, and it was something that if there was a robbery, again, police can get involved and investigate, detectives. There's like a chain and line of command in process that makes the public feel somewhat um, at ease. Here, now they're talking like in this crypto universe where they're buying people's identities, they're building different like monetary systems. It looks like I thought that was an act of treason, trying to build some other form of monetary system when this is very truly how the government, these are the government issued paper. I thought that's how the US ran or runs the government, but
Nailed it.
it
Norte's
gets
got most.
It's that
confusing
fast
these
food, but
days.
it's so.
So they advertise, it says crime. It says every 3 seconds an American's identity is stolen. Crime reporter Tom Morris Jr. investigates.
In V8. This week is your chance to try. Designed specifically to go there. So we'll go ahead and we'll open it up right now. And the first thing you'll notice.
Yeah, first thing I notice, this is not what my internet looks like. That's not what my internet looks like. That is called dark search. I don't know how one accesses that. I mean, I turn my phone on rarely, and it has a totally different look than that. But apparently, criminals go to that, and I don't know what level of criminal, but then they search for profiles and buy all sorts of different things off of it that I'm completely unaware. Lou and Lynn are not aware of. And like that's a whole nother set of circumstances that's erupted in this cybersecurity field, which I mean, is that like, I mean, I don't know, is that up to sorcery? Because the sorcery, when I say sorcery, like this still seems like at the Avenger level of something. It doesn't seem like it's up to the sorcery level. Like sorcery level is where the internal energy field is being manipulated at like the Bluetooth level and interfering or affecting the signaling of the biological unit in like a medical art disruption or dystopian or entropy.
You'll notice is it looks almost identical to when you're browsing on the internet. So I type in SSN and I hit enter. And you'll notice that I was searching for social security numbers. Just by typing in SSN, it comes up with a whole list of sites available to me right now that I can go to where people are selling social security numbers. So now this is a person that's selling quote unquote fools. And a fool means it's full information. So they have your name, social security number, address, driver's license number. Really? Yeah. And so you can notice now look, there's a shopping cart. So I
Why don't they hunt these animals down and just eradicate the population that takes part in this? I don't understand what is so hard. I mean, they're stealing people's papers. Is at who's responsible? Like, who are the people in charge of protecting the public and their safety? I'm just curious. I'm lacking in their social like construct, and I don't know who the decision makers are at this point. I do know, however, that I met a sports person once, and he knew a general. One of my high school, in the new school in St. John's, the last one, at the Crescent Street, she knew who he was. And he asked for me by name, which she was like, "Do you know this person?" And I'm just like, "We will find out." I was like, "The name doesn't ring any bells," but again, um, so that was that. So I know that there really are generals. Like, I'm not, I mean, I get that, but the only one that I know by name would be the one on the quarter. Um, And again, where I was at the Glen, um, I know people were asking about me back then in anticipation of something wonderful happening. Um, but I don't know what happened in between. Then it goes to this. This is one of these climate change pieces. And it shows the highway system with the automobiles. And then I'm going to go to an episode of Ancient Aliens that has a special word for it that I had never heard until I saw this particular episode.
Moving through the streets, that enables us to pinpoint the precise location of those measurements.
There are a lot of ways that carbon dioxide gets into the air, but according to the EPA, the number one source of carbon emissions is transportation at 27%.
You can look out the window. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 10 trucks just in front of us right now.
Diesel trucks.
Diesel trucks. And what you're looking at here, that's the CO2 coming off of these trucks.
What she's showing me is a visualization of carbon dioxide on the streets of Oakland. The lower concentrations are purple on the side streets. The much higher yellow levels are freeways. And those things that look like skyscrapers are emissions where two highways come together. Businesses and governments use Acclimate's data to identify and reduce sources of pollution.
This isn't just an invisible problem. You can now see it. It's visible. It's measurable.
And when I drive,
And when you
I
drive,
contribute.
you're contributing. You're putting CO2 into the air.
So this was taped Saturday, April 1st. It says Mysterious Devices Season 1, Episode 3. It's an Ancient Aliens special edition.
But of all the weapons described in the Mahabharata, perhaps the most deadly was a device called the Brahmastra, a weapon that the text warned was never to be used.
Brahma Astra is described as the ultimate weapon. Once it is launched, it will simply burn everything. So it incinerates the entire universe. We're talking about a nuclear blast, 100-fold magnitude.
I know that's how he's describing it, but if I go back just a couple of seconds further, they do show
About nerve
this.
people into sleep. So we're perhaps talking about nerve gas.
They talk about weapons that are so high tech that it's could only be from extraterrestrials.
That's how they choose to describe it. Again, I don't really know. But what's frightening to me at this point is knowing in the beginning of when I was moved to the Glen and I had Sundays with the Red Cross, who gave me the green and white 1988 pin. There was one George Washington head on the quarter, and there was really a bird on the back of it. And I don't know how that changed or how these went into circulation. I also don't know how or when or why cryptocurrency ever became a thing. I don't know who started an exchange for that. I don't know why these are business attempts that are even being explored. It seems like counterintuitive or counterintelligence to keeping the establishment and the foundations of the sanctity of what holds us together at Homeland Security. It seems like, if that's our bedrock and our foundation, why is it being etched away? And these small, what seems innocent changes But as time rolls on and it starts to pick up momentum, it seems like really dangerous trends. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. With this internet thing, stealing documents and what do they do with them? I mean, it just seems really like, where did face-to-face meetings go? Where did having a place to go, a part within the area to be like, I don't know, a helpful part, but with designated like calendar items of this is what we need, this is what's coming up, and like planning of things. Where did all that go?